everyone, and welcome back to A Cup of Coffee. My name is Amaan, and I'm here with my co-host Omer and our guest Labiba.
Hi, everyone. Today we're joined by Labiba. Labiba, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Labiba, and some of you might know my sister, who's Aisha. She goes to UTD, so I'm her sister.
All right, awesome. It's very nice to have you here. A lot of cool things that we could talk about. I'm very excited for this episode. But I guess we'll start with a question that we love to ask everyone. What is something you are passionate about / like a really huge nerd about?
Okay. I think something I'm really passionate about is, I don't think I'd say I'm like a huge nerd about it, but I'm very passionate about like using your voice. I think that's something that's super important. I'm 17, so I can't vote yet, but that's something I'm very passionate about when I do get to vote. I think that's like something I really want to be able to use that as an impact. I think a lot of people like tend to push that aside when they think about their civic duty because it's like, oh, it's just going to the polls and voting. But that's something that's really important. You can make a big impact with that. And not just on like the national elections level, but like on the local elections level. I think people forget to do that a lot. And it's like people sometimes don't even know when those local election dates are, but you can make so much of an impact in your city and like what is affecting your daily life by just going to the polls and voting. So that's something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah. Omer, I believe in Plano it's June 5th, right?
Yeah, and early voting is going on right now. And yeah, definitely I have to agree with you there, especially in local elections. And I think like an example I saw last year was because the voter turnout here is pretty bad. Right. And so one of the like we had like city council elections like a couple of years ago. And like, I voted for one person, she didn't get in, her opponent got in, right? And basically the whole thing last year with the whole pandemic and all was getting really bad, right? Last year. And so the city voted to, have a mask mandate or not. And sort of they dropped the mask mandate because of like one council member's vote, right? So it just shows like how much of a difference your voice can make in local elections, because if enough people had come and turned out, maybe we could have had a mask mandate that less people could have gotten sick and things like that.
Yeah, definitely would have been a lot better. I think, yeah, it's just something that's really huge. I think the voter turnout in Plano is like just a couple thousand people, maybe. So it's really huge. Like if just like a couple, I think the race is decided by like less than 100 votes sometimes. So it's really, really important. And for those of you that live in Plano, June 5th. So don't forget. But yeah, that is super important. And I think what I guess like everyone that knows you, Labiba, and that like sees this episode and sees that you're on here is going to be wondering when we're going to ask you about this, but you were on the news. So tell us about that experience and what it was for, how everything started, just like the whole story behind it, how the experience was. Were you nervous? Did you enjoy it? Just everything about it.
Yeah, so I was on CBS 11 a couple days ago, like I think about a week ago, because I was chosen as a U.S. presidential scholar recently. So basically what that's for, it's like they'll select a bunch of students across the United States to apply for this like recognition program based on your general academics and your community service leadership kind of initiatives and stuff. And you can also be selected for art and career technical kind of successes. And so they choose one boy and one girl from each state. So there were 5 from Texas, if you saw. That was because there was one boy and then me as the girl, and then 3 other students who were chosen for career and technical and art successes. So yeah, that's basically why I was on the news. It was very exciting. I think my family was definitely more excited than I was. I mean, I always say I was excited, but especially my mom. My mom was very jumpy about it. She's so cute. I personally really enjoyed it. The news anchor that was with me, Rachel O'Neill, she was super great. She was really funny. She just made me feel super comfortable. My dad was really nervous. That was adorable too. But he really enjoyed being on there. And I think it was just really cool. like, I know I posted it like on my Facebook and stuff, and I told all my friends that I was going to be on it. So that was cool that they got to see it. But I think what was cooler was like when people would like text me out of the blue and they'd be like, "Oh, I saw you on the news." And I was like, I didn't know people watch the news. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, that was really cool. So it was an interesting experience. Like, you know, it's a once in a lifetime thing. So, you know, we saved all those clips and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, that is really amazing. I saw the clips on the news. I was like, "What? This is so crazy!" Someone that we know that just got onto the news. It was amazing. And then they showed that video of you when making dua for getting into Harvard when you were little. That was amazing. It was really really cool. Just all the stuff that Aisha's been sending in the group chat about you being on the news, and then your valedictorian speech was really really good.
Thank you.
I did love when you said "Dare to Dream." It was amazing, and then just so much about it. It was a really great speech. So congratulations first on all of these accomplishments and the presidential scholarship, getting into Harvard. I see you repping it right now. Yeah. Really cool. I like the matching scarf too. Pretty
Thank
cool.
You. I wore this one on the news too, so people are going to think I have one hijab and that's it.
This is your interview hijab.
It is. Yeah, I have to wear it. I don't have no choice.
It's a good look, John.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. See, when
I actually did wear this one during my Harvard interview, so
wow,
it might actually.
Yeah, there might be something about it.
When you're on a late night talk show in a couple of years, you got to be wearing that too.
Exactly.
Awesome. Very, very nice. And I guess like a follow up to, mashallah, all of your accomplishments, really incredible stuff. So one thing that I really want to know, and I'm sure a lot of people want to know as well, is how do you manage your time? Like, what does your day look like? If you've gotten so far in so many ways, I know you're a hafiza as well. Those of you that don't know, she's memorized the whole Quran. MashaAllah, really, really incredible thing. So how do you manage your time? What do your days look like? And what tips do you have to like anyone that's struggling to manage their time?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah, I would say that like one thing that's really helped me, my dad has like always instilled it very early on. Like you can ask my sister too. We're a very like organized family. Mm-hmm. My dad said that on the news too. You can see that. Yeah. But like from a very young age, I think when my dad like used to go to college and stuff, he used to keep a diary and stuff. And he used to like write down how much time he's spending and everything. So I don't do that particularly, but I do use a planner. I think that's something that's very important to me, that like I have to have things written down or else I'm going to forget them. And I know a lot of people are like, oh no, it's okay. Like I'll remember that I have a test next Wednesday. You won't. And even if you do, it's like, you're not going to, if you have that visual reminder, you're going to be like, okay, I need to set my time like this. So using a planner is something that really helps me personally. And like using a planner also helps with another step of that, which is prioritizing things, right? I know for myself, like you mentioned, I'm a hafiza. So like when I come home, the first thing I do usually is like, I read my Quran first, because I know that if I don't do it, I'm going to get so caught up with my work that it's going to be 2 a.m. and then I'm going to be like, well, I don't have time to read Quran, and then I'm just going to go to sleep instead. Right. Yeah. So if you do those things, if you prioritize, you say, okay, this is something that's very important to me. I have to get this done first. A lot of times it's easy for you to be like, okay, this is a really big thing. This is a priority of mine, so I'm going to do it last. I personally don't stand by that. Yeah. I think it's really important to get those priorities done first, because then you have more time to get those other things out of the way after you're done with like the big things, right? Yeah. You think that you've actually accomplished things, so you can be more relaxed when you do those other things. So that's the tips that I would give, is prioritize and also use a planner. I know like sometimes it's really annoying. A lot of like my classmates that are guys that'll ask me those kinds of things. I'll be like, use a planner, and they're always like, not for me. And I'm like, yes, it is. It can be. I think it can be for everyone. Writing things down really helps me. So that's something I would say.
Yeah. Does that mean that you don't procrastinate, or?
No.
Because I don't think I've met a single person that doesn't procrastinate.
Yeah, no, you'll see like this perfect, pristine image of me. That's not me. I procrastinate a lot. I procrastinate on my college applications. I procrastinate on getting on this call. Like I procrastinate on everything. But I think I would procrastinate more if I did not do the things I do. So, people say like, oh, like I procrastinate because I know that I'll still be able to get things done even with procrastinating. I think for myself personally, I would not be able to if I was not like, it's just much worse if I'm not putting in those precautions. So, as much as I do procrastinate, I don't think it's as bad as it could be. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was this really interesting TED talk that I saw about procrastination, right? And it was probably millions of views. A lot of y'all probably might have seen it, but basically what he was talking about was that there's like, so there's, doing things on time, right? Which is where like, you'll get it like decent work done, and then doing it at the very, very last minute when you're just in a state of panic and you don't even have enough time to like do it correctly. That's really, really bad procrastination. But then there's a spot in the middle, right? Where like the rush comes in and you realize that you don't have that much time. So then your brain starts working overtime and you get like all of your best work done at that time. And I know we've all been there at some point. And the way he described it was hilarious. He was like, basically like, there's your brain, and then there's like this monkey inside of your brain that will like drive you crazy until you get the work done. So it's going to be silent until that point where like you really need to get your work done, and then it's going to be telling you that you really, really need to get your work done, and you'll get good work done. But if you wait too late, then the monkey's just going to take over, and then it's going to do the work for you. And so that's the point that we don't want to get to. I thought it was just really funny, and it's it is usually how we work. There's a reason for our procrastination. We do it so that we can do our best work under pressure.
Yeah, I think there's a such thing as healthy procrastination. My mom's going to kill me for saying that. But I think there is a such thing as healthy procrastination. But if you don't know how to manage that, then that can very quickly turn into very toxic procrastination. So don't let it turn into that.
It's too late for that.
I mean, we procrastinated on this podcast for 6 months.
Yeah, it's been a while, so you can ask us.
Yeah, the monkeys escaped at this point. I don't know why.
Even he got tired of waiting. But that's really cool. So I guess this is kind of going back to the passion question, but just out of curiosity, like, is there something that you're a huge nerd about, like, that you, like, if we asked you, you could just talk about it for like hours and hours?
So I guess a lot of people would just classify me as a nerd. So I am an academic decathlete, if you guys know what that is. Wow. So I did academic decathlon all 4 years of high school. And I actually also did pentathlon in middle school. So I'm a nerd in a couple different subjects. I think out of all of those, my favorite, so basically I should probably explain what that is. So academic decathlon, every year we have a theme. And we have 10 subjects, obviously, decathlon. So 7 of those subjects are objective. So we have like math. Math is just like regular math. And then we have like science, history, art, music, econ, and language and literature. And then we have 3 subjective events. So those are essay, speech, and interview. So it's kind of like an overall comprehensive kind of thing. And each year we have a theme for those 7 objective events. And that's what we like take tests on and compete in and stuff like that. So my freshman year, I did I guess I'll start from my 8th grade year. We did a whole curriculum on World War II. My freshman year, we did a curriculum on Africa. Then we did a curriculum on 1960s in America. And then we did the Cold War. And then my junior year, I think we did health and medicine, something like that, like the history of health. I think out of all of those, my favorite is probably my freshman year when we learned about Africa. So, so I can name all 54 African countries if you'd like me to.
Wow.
So fun things. And like, it's really cool because like that's something that you don't really learn in history class at school, right? Like you learn like the basic like African history and stuff that like pertains to world history, but you don't really like delve into like each of those countries within the continent and like the different histories like before colonization, right? And then the movements for colonialism and stuff and how they fought back against that. And then also like how like the art and music plays into that and how that's like affected their economy in the present day kind of thing. So I think that like the thing I really like about ACTEC is that like we get to delve into those topics that you don't really get to into regular history in like high school. And you also get to see it in like a more comprehensive view, like seeing like how the art and music plays into it and how the literature plays into it. That's something I personally really enjoy. Like I absolutely hate art, but I love art history. I think it's really interesting like to see how the history of a people can change how they're like expressing themselves. So so that's something if you want me to name all 54 African countries, I can.
But take your word for it, though. I'm sure
but that is absolutely incredible. It's just so cool to see how like sometimes it's not what you do in school, but like technically you did that like with your school, so like it wasn't in your classes, but it was something outside of it that like like it sparks passion and then it makes you like genuinely interested, and it's actually something that's so cool to learn. So that is really cool.
I think definitely your extracurriculars in school definitely really enhance that experience, just because we probably wouldn't be doing this podcast if we didn't do debate together for 3 years in high school.
Yeah, definitely. Debate was probably, despite the fact that we only went to a few tournaments, just feeling that like rush of speaking and like learning more and more that like, it's not actually about knowing what you're talking about. It's more about being confident and pretending like you know what you're talking about, right? Which is like the entirety of this podcast, right? So
yeah,
it's just a really really cool thing. And I think I guess like this is sort of a question, like what do you feel is the importance of those extracurriculars or of like things outside of school that drive passion and like for someone that's younger maybe or even older that's struggling to find it, like how do you find those passions? And then like I guess yeah, like how did you get started, and what's the importance of finding passions outside of school?
I think a lot of people try to like stay restricted in their box, and that's kind of the problem that happens when they're like, find your passion. People can't find it because they think that they have to do these certain things, right? A lot of people like, particularly like in high school and stuff, right? You're like getting ready for your college apps. And some parents like start that from like freshman year. Some parents start that from like first grade, and so they're like, you have to do these activities or else you're not going to get into these elite colleges or whatnot. And that's not true at all, right? Mm-hmm. What's important when you're trying to find your activities and you're trying to find your passion is doing things that you like. And I know like that sounds like, okay, like how am I supposed to do that then? Get involved in things that you think that you might enjoy, or things that you would never have tried before. Like if something sounds cool to you, go figure out what it is, right? I did act deck because I did pentathlon in middle school when a friend of mine had invited me. He said, I think you would like this. And I thought, okay, like I'll give it a shot. And I really enjoyed it. And so then I ended up doing decathlon for 4 years, and it was something that like is very impactful for my life. It's one of the main things about me. I'm also like passionate about like public policy and stuff like that. Because I did a summer in Girls State a couple years ago. And that like kind of influenced me to like understand like what's important about like my public opinion and stuff like that. And then from there, I went and got involved in Congress campaigns. Like you have to have like that drive within yourself to see, like give things a shot. Like even if you don't think that you might like them at first, you should give things a shot and then see how that turns out. If you like it, you should keep going in that thing. And you don't have to be restricted to that box of like, okay, like I'm going into pre-medicine, right? Mm-hmm. Those things don't have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
And I know that when I was applying for colleges, I was like super worried about that because they always tell you, you need these passion projects. You need to show colleges that you have a goal, that you're on this track and you know what you're doing. You need to have like these certain research things and stuff like that. And that really freaked me out because I didn't have any research things. I tried for a couple health things, but they just weren't working for me. But you don't need to be like restricted to those boxes, because so many kids will come into high school thinking, okay, I need to go into medicine or I need to go into business. And so they only do these kinds of related activities, but that's not true. Like you are a multidimensional person, and that's just how it is for every individual out there. So you need to be involved with things that are interesting you and not just your parents or your friends or your kind of like career track, right? Mm-hmm. Do things that excite you and like actually call to what you think you should be as a person, like as a human being, not just as like a career.
Yeah, very incredible advice. I needed some of that myself, if I'm being honest. So really great stuff. Thank you so much. And I guess on a little bit of a lighter note, we keep switching back and forth, but that's kind of how this goes.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah. So just going off that theme of inspiration, and I was reading one of your printed interviews. I don't know if that was the same interview, just transcripted, or a separate one. But like at the end, you mentioned that you'd be doing some reading in the summer, including the Throne of Glass series, I believe. And that just got me wondering, because a lot of people are inspired by different things throughout their life. It's not just people around them, but what they read, what they watch and read, and even that inspires them to pursue the path that they are. So that just got me wondering: is there any piece of fiction that inspires you?
A lot, and I probably can't name like all of them at the top of my head. But one book that like really stuck with me, I read it a long time ago. I think I was like in 4th or 5th grade. Have you guys ever read Out of My Mind?
No.
Oh my God, such a good book. Okay, really? You have to read it. Like,
I'll put it
put it on your list like right away. Okay, it's such a good book. I think it was like on like a Bluebonnet list or something. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But like I read it when I was very young, and it impacted me a lot. And so basically, it's about this girl, and it's written from her perspective. She's disabled from birth, and like her struggles with that, because like the people around her are constantly thinking that like, oh, she like doesn't know anything, or like she's just not like on the same intellectual level. But the truth is like she's very smart, and she like makes like these connections that no one else would. And so she's been going to like these like special schools that have kind of been like dumbing things down for her, I guess you could say. And they're like trying to suppress whatever kind of intellectual growth she's trying to have. But then eventually when she gets to like middle school or high school, her parents finally put her like in a regular school that's like allowing for integration. And she gets involved with like the quiz bowl kind of team there. And I don't want to spoil it, but there was like the one scene in the book that just like impacted me so much. I was like, oh my God. And I think the book like really opened me up to super big, like just being open to perspectives. From a young age, and like also just like knowing that like you never know what's going on in someone else's life, right? You never know what's going on in their head. You never know how your small actions can eventually lead to a big action, or how those small actions can really impact someone in a way that's like irreversible, right? So like always being mindful of how you treat others. That's something that's very important to me. Like how you're coming off to others when you're approaching them, when you're talking to them. Does that person feel welcome when you're talking to them, right? I think that's so important, because like if you want that kind of energy reciprocated, you have to be willing to give that energy to everyone, no matter who they are or what you think they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super important just to like know, because sometimes, yeah, I mean, I've met people that like I didn't find out until years later what they were going through at the time. And it's like sometimes people are just really, really good at hiding it, and you just never really know like when someone needs to hear something, or when someone needs you to ask like how they're doing even. And so just treating people in that way is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the smallest actions are the ones that have the biggest impact, whether that's in the good way or like in the bad way. So we have to be mindful of those all the time.
Right, because you never know when someone's teetering on the whichever edge they are, and just one little touch can just send them over.
Yeah, definitely. I remember this one story, and it's a little bit darker than most, but it was what our debate teacher was telling us in I think when I was in 10th grade. So I don't know if you were in my class. It was Mr. McCaffrey. He was telling us about the story. This one kid, I forgot which school he went to, but it was in the DFW area, and he was like really, really depressed, and his family went out of town for like a weekend, and he decided that weekend was when he was going to just end it all, right? He decided that he wasn't going, like he didn't want to live after that, right? And he goes to this debate tournament over the weekend, and then he's like, that night I'm going to do it. And I think he gave a speech or something over there, and he said, like, he told himself that if someone says something nice to me or does something nice to me, then I won't do it. But he just hadn't felt that in so long. And on that day, someone came up to him and told him he made a really great speech and made him feel really good about it. And then he didn't end up doing it, and he was able to tell the story later. But like just that, like imagine that big of an impact for something so small that someone had said, because sometimes people just don't hear something nice said about them, or they just don't feel that feeling when someone asks you like genuinely, how are you doing today? And I mean, I've been in situations where like it's me and my friend Gamra, we always ask people how they're doing. And one time we were at a grocery store and we asked this guy how he was doing, and he was honest with us. He was like, I'm not doing well. I got laid off of my other job, and things aren't going well. But sometimes people will be honest with you, and you can tell they feel a little bit better after talking about it. And so just those little things can sometimes go a much longer way than you really think they can.
Yeah, if I might, I know like during high school and stuff, like mental health is something that like a lot of people don't like talking about because it makes them uncomfortable. But like a lot of stressed out students can relate to that with like no matter what, like how old you are, right? And especially I think like people that are like striving to like be perfect in their grades and also like balance these extracurricular activities and stuff. It's very possible for your mental health to like kind of be on the edge and stuff. And I know that was like the case for me a lot of the time, even though people like constantly think that it's not, I think it really is. And that's like the moments that you think that it's not is probably the moments that it's the worst for some people. Right. And so I think in those moments, like it's really important to have a really strong support system. And a lot of that is something that you build yourself, but a lot of that is also something that the people around you have to be willing to do for you.
Yeah. 100%.
I think definitely people underestimate how difficult it can be for high schoolers. I mean, especially for those that are, striving to achieve a lot academically, they're juggling a lot on their plate on top of the regular, stuff that comes with being a teenager in high school, right?
Yeah.
So I think, mental health definitely isn't talked about enough, and people, people need to try more to give high schoolers the support systems they need, and in general, there needs to be a lot more communication from high schoolers to their support systems as well. Just because all of the times, I was in high school. High schools do have a tendency to hide their problems from others as well, and just encouraging that communication, that sharing is a whole other obstacle besides having that support system in the first place.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that nowadays therapy doesn't have as much stigma surrounding it, but I have met like a select few that think like, like I'm not going to go to therapy because it's like, oh, not for me, or because like, so you have to have something seriously wrong with you if you're going to therapy, right? And I'm like, no, I think everyone at some point in their life could use therapy because we all go through something at some point. I believe personally that like everyone's given as much as they can deal with, right? And that means that we're all going through something at some point, right? Which means that we could all use a support system. And if we don't have a good support system, or maybe sometimes we needed something a little bit extra, then that might be the way to go, is therapy, or at least look into, journaling and spending time on your mental health. Specifically, just set aside time in the day to figure out what's happening in your head and what's going wrong, and figure out how to like help yourself, because it's such an important thing. But I think slowly but surely we're getting there, where it's something that can be talked about. But then again, like you see a lot of the times, like something has to happen for people to start talking about it, and then they'll stop talking about it after like a couple of weeks. I guess that kind of is the same way with, I mean, you guys, I don't even have to tell you what's happening in Palestine and all of these other places in the world. Every time something happens, we talk about it for a few weeks and then it's completely gone. It's as if, a couple weeks after everyone found out about those internment camps in China, nobody really cared about it anymore. And then in Palestine, they're going to forget very soon. And in fact, not everybody even knows what's going on because the news is relaying it as, Israel got attacked first, and, all of these different things are happening, so it's tough. But we need to continue talking about these things, even though they might be uncomfortable subjects. I mean, I even saw, and I guess this is just to put in perspective how much these things are being censored and how much they're being put down. I had some friends that were trying to raise money to help people in Palestine, and some of their posts got taken down because they were saying the truth about what was going on in Palestine and how things were. Instagram literally took down their posts because that's how harshly these things are being censored. So it is a pretty big deal. So
yeah, I think in those moments, that's like what's super important. It's like when things are getting taken down, right? Or like your voice keeps like constantly getting suppressed. It's like kind of easy to be like, am I on the wrong side? But like, that's why it's so important to like be confident. Like I said that it's in my speech, but like be confident in who you are and what you believe and stuff like that. Because when you have that conviction, no one can take your voice away, no matter how many posts they take down, right? As long as you know what you believe and you know that you're on the side of truth, and like there's no way that God's going to let that fail, right? Like you have to. The only thing that's important for you to do is to make sure that you keep doing what you're doing, right? Don't let them taking away your voice actually take away your voice.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, because I mean, even if you get your post taken down, even if your voice gets drowned out, the best thing you can have is your resolve and your faith, right? As long as you have that, no matter what happens to you, you'll keep going.
Yeah. Like I'm a hijabi, right? And like my school I kind of called them out during my speech, but not as much as I'd like to. But we're almost like 70% white, I'd say. Like we're very not diverse. Like we're getting better, but we're not like the most diverse school in Frisco by any chance. And I have heard a lot of things about like wearing hijab and stuff because I am the only hijabi at my school. It's different at like my sister's school. She went to a different school than me. There's a couple more than just her, but still it's like, it's very sparse amount. Right. And it's easy to like, when people are saying those things, like, you know, you're like, okay, I can just take it off. Right. Like, and people think that like, especially because like I've been a hijabi for a very, very long time. I think like since I was like in 4th grade. So people think that like, okay, you've been doing it for a long time. So there's no obstacles that come up with that still. That's not true. I think every single day, as a hijabi or as like a Muslim American, just even that is a struggle, right? Mm-hmm. Like being firm to who you are. And that can like apply to any faith too. Like just like being true to who you are. It's so easy to let those voices in and like let them change who you are. But it's more important in those moments when people are saying things that want you to, that like make you want to turn away from who you are. That's when it's most important to turn to those things that you do believe in.
Yeah, definitely. Also, the fact that you were the only hijabi at your school and also the only valedictorian, quite impressive way to represent. But I definitely see what you're saying, and I didn't realize it because I went to Islamic school until I was in 8th grade, right? And then 9th grade, everything changes. I move all the way to Texas and I start going to public school for the first time. And so I don't not everyone sees me and thinks that I'm Muslim because I don't look the part all the time. But once they find out, so I had like this one English class in my 9th grade and I had to come late to that class because I had to pray Dhuhr right before it. And so I would come late to that class because I had to pray. And so, I think the teacher had told them that's why, somebody probably asked why I'm coming late every day. And the teacher probably told them that I had to go pray. And so they found out because of that, oh, I'm Muslim. And I could tell that they were treating me differently from that day on. Right. And one of them didn't even hide it. He would straight up say things to my face. And I was like, I don't want to get into the specifics, but it was the first time that I had ever had to deal with something like that, and see people just legitimately treating me differently as if I'm not I'm still the same person that you were talking to before you found out I was Muslim. This is actually a part of my identity. It's something that's really important to me, and you're going to treat me differently. Obviously, some people have it a lot worse than what I've gone through, and it's really, really bad. It's horrible to see that these kinds of things still happen and that people have to be treated differently because of where they're from, who they are. It's tough to see that in today's society, especially when, we had at Jasper and at Plano West, it was relatively diverse. So it was weird to see that happening actually.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of had a similar experience because when I started doing hijab, I was actually homeschooling at the time because I was doing hifz, so I wasn't at school. And so when I returned to school, that was my first time actually wearing hijab again, and it was the same school district, the same schools and stuff. So a lot of the friends that I used to have in elementary school, they're wonderful people. But once you put on a hijab, it kind of you're different, Mm-hmm. And for a little bit, I was kind of I hate to say it, but I was ashamed of it, I would wear it, but I was okay, I'm just wearing it, and I wouldn't, I was very shy. I was very quiet at school. I wouldn't say anything about it ever. People would say things about my religion all the time. I kind of just let that happen, But I think what I've learned recently, and especially through high school, is that what's important is that you put your identity first, right? Reclaim who you are. Don't ever let someone take that away from you. Mm-hmm. So now that it's something that I know that it's something I firmly believe in, right? And I know I firmly believed in it back then too, but it was something that I was trying to hide away from, I guess, even though I was wearing it, people can see it, but I think I was hiding away from it, Yeah. I didn't want to see it on myself. But recently, it's something that I feel is very integral to who I am. So I don't hide away from it. If I introduce someone, if I introduce myself to someone, that's something that's one of the first things I talk about. Yeah. Because I'm proud of it. I'm proud of my religion. I'm proud of who I am. And that takes time, but I think it's something that's very important for all of us.
Yeah.
I think we've talked a lot about identity on this show and how trying to find your true self and just even if there are parts of ourselves that we're not really proud of, they're still part of who we are, and we can, you know, working to face that part of yourself that you maybe at the time aren't proud of. It's like a big thing we talked about even in our previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
I like to use. There's a game that I really like to use as an example for this a lot, but it's Persona 4, and I've mentioned it a few times on the show. But the whole central theme around that game was facing your shadow. Uh, Basically, the shadow would be a version of themselves that they didn't really like. Like it was all them. None of it was, distorted in any way. It was still like a part of themselves, like a person who wanted to be liked and did things so that he would be liked. That person met their shadow, and immediately they started rejecting it and like, no, this isn't me.
Yeah.
And that shadow and because of that shadow attacked them, right? And so basically, I feel like that metaphor really works in our actual lives because, when there's a part of ourselves that we don't really like or are proud to admit, and and we're confronted with it, we try to reject it, and that ends up, hurting us.
Yeah.
And so the first step towards, either changing that part of yourself if it's a part of yourself that you don't feel it's good, or just accepting that as part of who you are is accepting that it's there, that it's a part, that it's you.
Yeah, definitely. And Labiba, yeah, I mean, you probably haven't encountered this yet. I hope that you do. But something that I noticed when I first got into college was that it was very different in high school. In that, like, on the subject of identity and being who you are, it was the culture there. Once I got to college, especially the fact that I was at a community college where everyone would be who they were, right? And so in college, you just didn't care like nobody cares what anybody else thinks in college. And so I got there, and everybody was doing their own thing, and I would meet some of the coolest people in my classes. I made a friend who was building his own RC cars at home. He was the one who taught me how to edit videos for this podcast. I met someone just randomly in one of my classes who was an artist. He gave me some tips about like drawing and stuff like that. That was really, really cool. And people just aren't afraid to say like, this is who I am. This is what I'm interested in. And one of the experiences where I really realized things were very different in college was because in high school, I didn't really like tell people that like, oh, I have to pray, which is why I'm coming late. And so in college, like I had this room that I had to go to pray in that I saw someone else praying in one time, and I asked them if I could use the spot as well. But every time I would go in there, because it was somebody else's like room, it was like a student government thing, I would like tell them like, hey, I'm here to pray. And then I would go in, and after like the first couple of times, like the person that was over there was like, you don't have to like tell us every time, you can just go do it. And I was like, what? You guys are like this nice over here? It was crazy. It was refreshing. It was such an incredible thing to just see that like everyone was so accepting, and because they also just want to be who they are, and they want that same level of respect back. And it was just such a refreshing experience. So I hope that Harvard is like that for you. I personally can't say because I haven't been there, but I'm assuming. No,
are you sure you haven't been there?
I haven't, but probably won't actually soon. But yeah, college is just like that. I think UTD is the same way as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because we had our own prayer room at UTD that everyone used, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was so different because Amaan was at Colin for a year and a half, and then moved to UTD, and then Corona happened.
Yeah, the moment that I got there.
Yeah, so if you want anyone to blame for COVID, it's probably Amaan.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
But it was so different because in high school, especially at Plano, at Jasper, we got a room and they're pretty accommodating. Mm-hmm. But at Plano West, like it felt like we had to jump through hoops to pray. Like we had a spot in the library that they let us use begrudgingly if we made no noise.
Yeah.
Oh, they kicked us out of it a couple times. It was really difficult because they were a group, especially on Juma, right? Because we try to have a khutbah and then just pray on Juma, right? But I mean, first of all, you had to try and get your teacher to let you leave for 20 minutes, which is hard enough.
Yeah.
And then, you had to make sure that the librarian didn't hate you. And then, it was a whole process that, it felt like you it felt like someone was looking at you through for rifle the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a target on your back.
Yeah, UTD was also a very refreshing experience because of that prayer room that they have.
Yeah, and I hear Harvard has a Muslim chaplain, I believe.
Yeah, I actually know him.
Yeah, he's
he used to teach when I was very young at Plano.
Yeah, he used to be the resident scholar, Sheikh Khalil, I believe.
Oh, no way. Sheikh Khalil's over there. That's so cool.
Yeah.
He left a couple of years ago from Plano Masjid, but yeah, he's over there now.
He's amazing. So
yeah, I'm very excited.
That is really cool. So yeah.
I think speaking of that now, what are some of the things you're looking forward to going to Harvard?
I think a couple things, like on the more basic level, I'm very much looking forward to having real seasons. I think I've had enough of Texas. Yeah, so
let me roll I was to see what the weather is tomorrow.
Exactly. I mean, I was born in Texas, and then we spent a couple years up north. We spent a couple years in, like, I don't know if my sister said this before, but we spent a couple years in Canada, and then a couple months in California, and then Michigan.
Yeah.
But then ever since then, like since I was 6, we've been in Texas. So I'm looking forward to some new air. I would like to see the leaves like change color into like real colors, and like some snow. I know that when I get there, I'm probably going to hate it. I'm going to be like, I have to go to school in the snow. But for right now, I'm excited about it. I'm also very excited about the classes. Like every time I say it, it just still feels so surreal. Like I know, like it feels surreal to other people when they're saying it. But they think that I'm kind of like, oh yeah, like I thought I was going to get in, but I really didn't. So it still feels like really weird to me and really crazy for me to say like, I'm going to Harvard or like, I'm going to get to like take Harvard classes, sit in like the Harvard classrooms with Harvard professors. Because the classes just sound so cool. And like, just like every time I read into a professor, I'm like, that's so cool. I'm going to take their class. Even if I don't have space, but that's something I'm really excited, and looking forward to. And then also like the, like what you guys said, like the Islamic Society and stuff like that there. Just like having a community, cause we didn't have like an MSA or anything at my high school, like you guys were saying, like you have like a prayer room. And I was like, man, I'm jealous because we don't even have enough Muslims there to like even bring that up. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is like actually having a place to pray on campus, or like being able to like have Muslim friends that I can like relate to on like Muslim things on.
That's
so
cool.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That should be really great. Yeah, that weather thing, I think you're right. You're going to be excited when you go. It's a bit of a shock. It was the opposite for me because I moved from Chicago to here. And so now I have to deal with the heat in the summers, which is pretty crazy.
See, I moved here from Saudi, so
yeah.
I was like,
that's cool.
Yeah. So people keep asking me why I'm wearing a jacket. I'm like, it's not hot, guys. Because I came from where it could go up to 120 degrees, and there's no humidity, so it's like an oven.
Man, I can't imagine being there, bro. Like, yeah, that dry heat is the worst because you can't even sweat to like cool yourself down.
Because the way dry heat works is you can breathe in the heat. Like when you breathe in through your nose, it's like you're going next to an oven and just taking a sniff.
Yeah,
and also it's really dusty there. Like, I don't really talk about this that often, but like it feels really like when I moved here, it felt really weird to not have white knuckles because it's dusty all the time over there, and so like my knuckles would always be white. Like if you look at people's hands over there, their knuckles are always white because of the amount of sand that's in the air.
That is insane. Yeah, like, you probably went through sandstorms and stuff too.
Yeah, like I probably lived with a teaspoon of sand in my lungs.
Oh my god.
Yeah, sandstorms were, that's when I first started wearing surgical masks. Like I was wearing surgical masks way before COVID, because during the storms you shouldn't be breathing in all that sand, so people wore surgical masks.
Wow.
And sometimes you'd have a rainstorm during a sandstorm, and that was, it's raining mud.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
The weather was... so the weather here is pretty mild in comparison.
I'd imagine, yeah. And I mean, yeah, coming from Chicago, I haven't been in any sandstorms, but I've been in a blizzard before, which was its own monster because the instead of mud flying around, it's snow that's just like, and it's not like you don't look outside and see like snow falling from the sky. No, like the wind is picking it up from the ground and just taking it everywhere. So it's just snow going everywhere. It was crazy, but it was a really cool experience to just watch it from the window because power went out. It was pretty crazy. And then the like the storm that we had over here in like February, like the whole power outage and everything, that was crazy. That sucks, man. It can't go to like 100+ degrees in the summer and then freeze us out in the winter. That's not fair. I don't understand why that happens. Oh God.
And then like a week later, it was like barbecue weather.
Yeah, I
like,
know.
You don't even remember it happened.
It was so bad. It's just like tried to cover it up. I just tried to pretend like, yeah, what storm? It was bad.
Yeah. Is there anything you're looking forward to in just moving to that area, like near Harvard? Like it's up there by Boston, right?
Yeah, I haven't really like looked into too many things. I've been like trying to like scout out like halal restaurants and stuff like that. Because like my mom is like very concerned about the food thing. She's like, I'm gonna have to spend my birthday alone up there because it's like within like the first week of schoolish. So she was like, oh, like what are you gonna have on your birthday? Like I can't ship you food. So we were trying to find like restaurants nearby that like have the food that I like. I haven't really like thought about anything like particularly up there though. Like I know that I've always wanted to like, it's not in Massachusetts, but I've always wanted to go to New York. So my family and I are going to take a trip up there. That's but yeah, cool. I don't know anything particularly in like the Boston, Cambridge area yet. So hopefully when I get there, I find things that I want to do.
Is throwing tea into the harbor still a tradition?
I'll do it. I'll be like, I'm a foreigner. Okay. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. There's very few things I know about. I know about the Boston Tea Party and the Boston Marathon and the Boston Celtics, and that's about it. But I
think that's my knowledge on Boston too. I don't know very much about it either.
I think Ben Affleck is from there or something.
Wow.
Is he really? I didn't know that.
Well, that's the fourth thing I know about Boston now. But well, you'll probably find out a lot about it once you get there. It should be very exciting. Just moving to a new place as a whole is just such an exciting. When was the last time you moved anywhere?
I was 5, I think so, 2009.
Dang, so it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that is exciting. But I guess like moving into like a somewhat different direction on the topic of like, I know that you were a kid and you really wanted to go to Harvard for like the longest time. So one question that I would have is like, what is that like driving factor for you? And like why do you wake up in the morning?
Oh, that was a question. Wow. Okay. Like why do I wake up like any morning?
No, like I guess what drives you to keep going towards your passions? Like what drove you throughout high school to try and get into Harvard, and what is going to drive you moving forward every single day?
Okay. I think I read about this in my Georgetown application, and I didn't like my Georgetown application very much, but when I went back, I realized it was something that I actually do feel very strongly. Something that's like very like important to me is like ihsan, right? So that's like the kind of Islamic concept of excellence, right? You want to constantly strive to be your best self, and I think that's something that like my family has done a wonderful job. Like my parents, mashallah, like they're such great parents. They've done like everything for me. I'm so grateful for them. But like they constantly like push me to be my best self, you know? I remember when I was younger, my mom used to always say, and I used to joke about it a lot too, because I never really understood why she said it, but she used to always say, like, whatever you do, be the best. So even if you're going to be a robber, be the best robber. And like my sister and I used to always think about that. And we'd be like, if you're not the best robber, you're kind of in trouble, because then like, if you're not a good robber, you're not a robber anymore. You're in jail. But that's something that like has really stuck with me for a long time, is like, whatever you're doing, be the best at it. Hopefully those things that you're choosing to be the best at are like good things, not bad things, like being a robber. But like that's kind of like why I wanted to go to Harvard, is like I want to make sure that like if I know that my potential like allows me to like try to aim for those schools, then I should like channel my potential into those things, right? I should want to go to the best school for me. I should want to do like take the best classes that I think like would help me improve as a person. Just like constantly trying to be like your best version. And then helping those around you. Like don't just let that stay with you, right? Let that like spirit of Hassan like spread to other people. And so like, you know, like they constantly like push you in high school to like do like community service and stuff. And a lot of kids get annoyed by it, but I think it's a really good thing. Like even though they're like being forced to do it for like the first part of it, I think like you can actually like instill a love for your community after a time it's like you want to spread what you've learned and like kind of influence the people around you. Make sure that the other people around you like should be what's it called? Not influenced. Well, they should be like influenced by you, right? They should be like motivated by you.
Yeah.
They should think that like, okay, I see this person has these dreams and they've put in the work and the effort to do it.
Yeah.
So like, why can't I, right? I want to be my best version too. And then I think like once you've created a community that has excellence, like the only way forward from there is progress, right? And that's the only way we can move forward is by making sure that like we're not staying stagnant. That's so important to me, is like, don't let your society just be what it is, because it's never going to be perfect. So there's always constantly somewhere else you can improve. So like be the person that starts that change and starts that like kind of reaction chain.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's super important. And like it really speaks to like, just showing people who you are with your actions and inspiring others. I mean, like, alhamdulillah, even in this call, like I have my friend who inspires me to, do a podcast and is always there for me whenever I need anything. And then also my friend who's going to Harvard, which is super, super cool. So just two people that like really inspire me just right here. And then, all of my friends, I feel like so blessed to have that really like show me. And I aspire to be that way too, to, like through my excellence, inspire people to be like a better version of themselves. And that's such an important thing. And I've seen like stories. Like I have this one friend who's a really, really great guy, and he was going to work, and he was just like just because of the person that he was, someone saw, like one of his friends at work saw him and became curious as to like why does he act the way that he acts? Like how is he the person that he is? And because of that, like he started looking into Islam because like the guy's Muslim, ended up converting, right? And just because of the way that he like saw this man, and so like it's such a huge concept in Islam and just in general to like show people who you are, like, and I guess it's that like that whole concept of like making sure you never lose your identity as well, because if that's a part of who you are and that's the reason that you do the things that you do every single day, it's going to rub off on others, and others will begin to have questions. And if you are constantly striving for ihsan, for excellence, and you're trying to be a better version of yourself, then that's going to impact others in a good way. Even if you're not directly trying to impact, even if you're not going out and doing community service, you could just be going to work. You could just be at school or anything and just have that sort of impact on someone. And I think that's so, so huge. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely going off like this belief I have that no one's dreams and motivations are completely their own. Like we all take inspiration from those around us, from our religion, and just we carry that with us, right? So in that same matter, we have to try and carry ourselves the best we can, so that others who you might not realize that others take inspiration and are influenced by you, but they are, right? Everyone who you come into contact with leaves with something from you. So we all have to try and motivate ourselves to be the best that we can be, so that the things that people take away from us are good.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess going off that, Labiba, who is someone in your life, or what was some point in your life where you were inspired to be a better person or chase something bigger?
I have a friend, her name is Hannah. She was like super impactful to me. Shout out to her. I'll send this to her then. But she's super cool. And she was like a junior when I came into my freshman year of high school. So she actually did decathlon with me. She's the reason I joined. But one thing about her is that she's a very soft person. Like she's very, like, mashallah, you see her and she just like, you would not know that she like does all these amazing things. She's just a wonderful person. She was actually my sister's grade. And I remember the very first time we saw her, I think was like my sister's like 6th grade, 7th grade, something like that award ceremony. And like, they're calling all these awards, right? And like, you would never be able to tell that she's getting all these things because she gets up, she gets her award, she sits back down. She doesn't say anything about it. Like mashallah, like it was just it just makes me like,
great.
every time I see her, I'm just like, wow, like that's the kind of person I want to be. And my mom, like my mom had told me at that award ceremony, before I had even been friends with her, I'd never talked to her before, my mom had said, Labiba, I want you to be like her, not because she's smart, but because like look at her behavior, like that's amazing, you know, that's the kind of person you want to be. We would go to award ceremonies during decathlon, and you can see like where she gets that impact from. So like her family, like we'd be sitting with, like my parents would be sitting with her parents. And Hannah, wow, she got to nationals individually, and she was like winning all these medals and stuff. Right. Wow. And she actually has like the all-time record for like the highest ACTEC score in like ACTEC history. So it's like really cool that we have that. But like you're sitting with her parents, and everyone is clapping for her, and they're clapping just like anyone else, but you would not be able to tell that like those are her parents. Wow. You know, like you just cannot tell that like those are the people. Like the amount of humility they have is just amazing. Like, you know, like you get these things, but you know that they come from somewhere else, right? Like you know that you put in the effort, but like you know that like God is really driving that, right? And I just like I'm just very thankful to have met her and seen like all those things that drive her. Like I know how much like effort she puts into these things, but she never lets that get to her. Right? You should never let like all that praise. And it's really hard. Like, you know, people keep saying these things, and it's easy to like make that like, oh yeah, you're right, I am kind of cool. But like, but being able to have like that like kind of barrier between like the praise and then who you are, that's something that like not a lot of people have. But that's something that I think a lot of people should strive for, because that can honestly make the difference between like a good person and a great person, right?
I have like my friend who is our fourth guest, I think, Maheen.
Oh wait, no, I was going to talk about Uzair.
Oh no, he was our fifth guest. But yeah, Uzair is also a really good example of this. So dude, we have so many friends that are just so cool and like, but so humble at the same time. So Maheen's one of them. Uzair is also one of them. I'll let you explain that one over. But Maheen was one that like really, really struck me because mashallah, like she does a lot of cool things. And I won't say specifically because she probably doesn't want me to say it to like the whole world, but she was doing something really, really cool, meeting someone who I would never even dream of meeting in my entire life, just casually for a meeting to set something up for like a fundraiser. And I was like, dude, and she met like so many cool people. She had done such like cool work because she's into like political science. And so she's worked with a lot of really like incredible people that like big names. And I was like, dude, how do you not let this like get to you and think like you're the coolest person? Like, how do you not think you're the coolest person in the world? And she was like, you know, these are just opportunities that like came to me. This isn't something that like I didn't like create this. Like I just met the right people and like the stars aligned for me. And I was like, I mean, mashallah, first of all, like that is incredible. And like second, I would, if I was in that position, I would be like screaming and telling the whole world like, oh my God, I just like, this is amazing, right? So that's the kind of character that is, like you said, I'm really grateful to have in my life these people surrounding me, and it's just something that is really, really incredible.
And just continuing that with the example of Zaire. Zaire was, I believe, our fifth guest, and you know you can see in his episode, but like he's like the most humble person you'll ever meet. Despite the fact that he's one of the most amazing people you've ever met. The guy won first place at foreign extemp finals or nationals, and I mean the way he carried himself after was amazing. Like all of us were like, yeah, and he was like, no man, I just got fortunate. I was like, yeah, I'm just like, say I'm gonna punch you.
Yeah, bro. I don't know how people can do that. It's so incredible. But
it just goes to show you, like the people that'll stick with you, that'll influence you, and like stick in your mind the most is, you know, they accomplish great things, but you know they realize that they still remain humble and realize that, you know, it came from God, it came from Allah, and Allah helped them achieve what they did, and that they're blessed. And that because of that they'll continue to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. I think like character above all other things. Like it doesn't matter what you do in life. If you're an awful person, no one's gonna like you anyway. It's like great, you cure cancer, but like why did you do it, right? Like did you do it just so you could say you did it, right?
Yeah, it's definitely the intention behind it is something that's also super, super important. And I feel like it's that point of, at least like I've felt it, and I mean we see it like this. A lot of the people that we see around us that even if they're going to become incredibly successful, right? If they're just doing it for the money or they're just doing it for the power, like they're not truly going to be successful, because they'll get there and they'll realize that like, oh, like what am I gaining from this, right? There was story of this one guy, and his name escapes me, unfortunately, but was told this story about this guy who was born into a really, really rich family. So he had millions from the day he was born, didn't have to work a day in his life, right? And he had everything, right? He had power, he had wealth, he could do anything that he wanted. But he obviously got to a point where he realized this isn't what I want. And it was very early in his life, because he was given everything from the day that he was born. And he realized that like, this isn't what I want. I want something other than this, because I like, and he didn't even have the opportunity to chase. He didn't even earn it. Right. But people that do earn it, like you get there and you realize like, what did you really accomplish? If you're not doing it for happiness or for any higher purpose, other than just, something worldly, then you're not going to gain anything from that. And you see that in the faces of the people that are humble when they gain something in this world, or when they accomplish something in this world, when they're very humble about it, that like, they see that higher purpose, right? And they see that, and that is the part that inspires us to be better people. And it's something that's so incredible. And I guess I'll relate this to something that I saw in a video game, because we were talking about fictional things that inspired us, but this is not, I guess, the most inspiring game, GTA 5, but I did learn a lesson from the game. I was playing online, and basically this dude just gave me like $30 million, right? And I was like, cool. Like you usually have to like work your way up, right? Like you have to do a bunch of different jobs, and then you grind, and eventually you get a ton of money. You can buy all these sorts of like cars and, like a yacht for yourself and stuff like that. But I just got this money from some dude, so I could buy everything. But then I was like, wait, what's the point in playing the game? Because I already have everything in it, right? Like I can't enjoy the, getting there, the experience of getting there. There's no point to playing the game. And I like realized that's very similar to the way that things work in life, is that, once you get there, what's the point? So you have to be chasing something other than something that's in this world. Sometimes you have to do it for yourself or a higher purpose.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the TED Talk by Sean Aker. It's called The Happiness Advantage. He also wrote a book. It's a wonderful book. But it's kind of like that. Like people always like attribute like happiness to success, and that success is kind of like, okay, like when I get like $1 million, or when I get this job, when I pass this class or whatever, that's when I'm going to be happy, right? But what's more important is not to put happiness at a success kind of like goalpost like that, because your success marker is constantly going to be changing, right? Yeah. Like once you pass one test, you're going to want to pass the next one. Once you get one job, well, now when do I get the promotion, right? So it's important to not like attribute your happiness to like those materialistic things, but like happiness throughout the journey, right? Like you're saying, like enjoying the journey and like making sure that you're happy throughout, because that's what real success is, not like getting there and then saying, okay, I'll be happy now. Yeah.
Not saying that like in a couple of years, once I get to like, this amount of money, or once I get this job, or, once I graduate, then, I can finally be happy. Like, no, what can I do for myself today? What can I do for myself tomorrow to change this? And I think that was something that my therapist had really helped me with, because I was like, constantly worried about like the bigger picture, right? And I was like, what am I going to do towards the end of my life? And she was like, you're constantly worried about these things, but it's possible that you're trying to make pieces of a puzzle fit together that don't really fit together. So you should just take the pieces that you have in your life and start putting them together and see where it takes you. And she also said that like, like what does your ideal day look like right now? Focus on that. And that really helped me realize that, it's more about today. Tomorrow, like I can plan it out as perfectly as I want to, but it's never going to happen exactly the way that I envision it, right? It's always going to be something different. Like you said, that vision of success is ever changing. So you have to really focus on like, what's going to make me happy today? What's going to, make me feel this sense of fulfillment, and what's really important to me right now.
Yeah, like happiness is like not the destination, right? It's the journey. Like my sister says this one thing, I can't remember exactly, but like I think it's called like amore fati or something like that. Like loving your fate, like whatever comes, like okay, like that was meant to happen. How can I use that to my advantage, right? Like don't be caught up with like, why did that happen? Use that to channel like, okay, what do I want to happen, or how can I use that to be a better person or to get to my goal, right? Don't let those things stop you.
Definitely. I believe, unfortunately, we're reaching the end of this. It's been so much fun having you here. But of course, as we always like to before we leave, we like to ask the guest for some parting advice. And so this can be about anything. It can be about something specifically related to what we were talking about. But what advice do you have for the people out there? We talked about struggling with finding passion. We talked about finding happiness along the journey, and struggling with your identity. So many of these things. What advice do you have generally for people out there that could be struggling with these things?
I think, especially like in the past couple months, a lot of people have been asking me about college apps and stuff, right? And I think the college apps are kind of a reflection of your bigger life, how you portray yourself to the world, right? But what's more important than that is like people are so caught up with like, how am I going to portray myself rather than who am I actually to have to portray, right? I think it's important to focus more on who you are than like what people are thinking you are, right? Because if you're a good person, then you can only portray good things about yourself, and then people are going to see that. So what's important is to work on yourself, believe in yourself, right? If you want to do something, go do something. If you don't like something about yourself, change it, right? Those kinds of things. Like make sure that you're constantly just looking inwards, seeing what can I do to be a better person and how can I use that to influence others around me, rather than constantly thinking about like, I need to check off this box, that kind of thing. So I think that's the big advice I'd give to people is like, don't worry about like trying to be exactly like these other people around you, or don't worry about constantly trying to, follow those YouTube videos on like how to get in here or how to get a job or something like that. Focus on who you are, because like once you're the person you want to be, you're going to get into those jobs that you want, that are fit for you, that you want to actually have, right, in the long run. So that's what I would say is like one of my favorite quotes is from Dr. Seuss, even though he's kind of a controversial guy. But be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. That's like something that calls to me in every aspect of my life. Be who you are, and then like don't be afraid to use your voice and actually like be that person and say what you feel, right? And don't let those people around you stop you, but then also make sure that you have a support system, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Labiba. And as always, everyone, thank you for listening, and be sure to check out our YouTube page and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at acupofcoffeepod, or email us in the description below. You can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, and most places where podcasts are listened to. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.